Members had a chance to look over our minutes. Is there a motion that we approve?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion to second to approve the minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved. Okay. Department comments. Mr. Junkin? There you are.
This is 809 34th Avenue. This one was tabled, I think 90 days ago. Since then, they've just about got the outside wrapped up. She started a contractor in there sometime after June the 14th, doing some interior demolition. Contractor was delayed due to another job.
They've come a long way.
He just got in there about 2 weeks
It's in my district, I think. Yeah.
Ms. Boney will be here tonight to speak on her behalf. We're gonna request that y'all give her at least 60 days.
Okay.
She's made some progress on the outside, and then her interior demolition is coming on pretty good, so I think we can do her at least 60.
Well, listen, do you think 60 is gonna be sufficient enough for
60
it?
now.
Okay, let's give it at least 90 days, and then we can kind of see really.
She's
where we are.
invested enough in
Yeah,
it,
she's
she's gonna finish.
Right, that's right.
That's exactly what she
So,
said.
if y'all will, I'll ask you for 90 days today, okay?
Sure.
All right.
That's it.
That's all?
Appreciate it.
All right. All right, you know, there are very few, I won't say that, that sounds ugly, but there are some people that come and go that, that's not that bad of a thing, but there are some people that come and go that I will greatly, greatly miss, because I've got such great respect for this person and become to not only appreciate his work, but his friendship. And that's Vincent Brown. He is leaving, retiring. He's had enough. He said, I can't take it anymore. I'm out of here. And 32 years
Wow.
with the city. And I want to give you a little standing ovation.
Great. Yes, sir.
Those who didn't stand, remember he's revenue. Vincent, you're going to be so greatly missed, and personally by me, and I know so many, many, many others, but this will be your last council meeting with us, correct?
Correct. I appreciate
Tony
that.
taking over.
I try to
Yeah,
still
I
all
don't know.
hoopla and whatnot. It's really not me.
I know that.
I thank y'all though. We have two applicants coming before you tonight. First with Chuck E. Cheese.
All right, Chuck E. Cheese.
I remember.
They'll be located in Midtown, which is where they were before. Change of ownership on this one. They're applying for beer and wine on and off premises.
Oh, Chuck E. Cheese.
Hey, you wouldn't believe, I don't,
Chuck E. Cheese.
I don't know if you were here.
Check those
We
IDs.
took a beating. We took a beating the first time we gave them alcohol.
You say what he does,
It's
hey,
over with.
there's gonna be some people reason to
Why
go
would they
there.
need all,
You're right.
they're selling liquor to go?
That's a strange one, but that's how the state is classifying them, so we have
Oh.
to match it.
Oh.
After a birthday party of 10, you're gonna
What do
have
you
to
mean,
carry
no?
something home.
That's what I'm talking about, kid.
The state determines what type of license they will
And go
issue them
puff.
for the activities that they're gonna have,
Wow.
and so whatever they decide they're gonna issue them, we have to match it.
So they may not have requested the off premises.
Probably not, but
I mean, I wouldn't stop in Chuck E. Cheese to pick up a six pack.
because they are selling wine, a lot of people, you order a bottle of wine or whatever, you don't finish
Don't
it.
finish
you refill it and you take it. Generally, you don't take the beer, but I guess, they're getting on and off premises beer anyway.
They're a pretty big market for Chablis drinkers at Chuck E. Cheese.
But there's no issues
They
with the
get the members
application
mark.
or from any other city department. The next applicant, Party Down LLC, will be doing the
Rodeo.
rodeo at Sofa Park. And he's will be the responsible vendor for providing alcohol for that event.
Going to the rodeo.
Y'all are well familiar with her. A lot of events throughout the city. She also holds a license at the Diamond Washington facility, Riverwalk, as well as the Thrish House. So no issues with her application. And that's the two that are coming before you this evening. I have two people here with me that you will be seeing probably coming before you present these applications. Antonio Mills, which he's done this quite a bit in the past.
Sure.
And Ms. Hannah Garrison will be assisting him from time to time and possibly coming before you as well.
That's great. Hannah, for you, she used to be our city council secretary.
I do remember.
Till
Nice
we
to
ran
have
her
you back
out.
up.
She ran out screaming. And, well, that's great. Tony, look forward to seeing more of you and Vincent again. I'm really gonna miss you personally, and as well as all the city's gonna miss you. And we can still go to a boxing match together or something. All right. Any questions on revenue? All right, Zach.
All right, so this is unfinished business. This is Life on Fourth. As y'all recall, y'all tabled this 2 weeks ago. It's coming back to you guys tonight, and I believe Mr. Wilson has discussed a little bit with the applicants.
Yes, I've talked to them, thank you so much, Zach. I've talked to the developer on this project, and I spoke with them, letting them know the council's reservations concerning the floor plan, and that I'm kind of hesitant with their current floor plan. And so after talking to them, they're working toward changing their floor plan so that it can be more family friendly. And they're asking for a 6 weeks delay so that they can come back to us with those findings. And I let them know that, I want to support them. I want to go on record of saying that. I let them know that. And what I want them to do, though, I want them to have a floor plan that is indicative of what family atmosphere should look like. And so I'm going to ask us to give them those 6 weeks to come back to admin, and then it will come before the council.
I thank you for that. Councilor Wilson, Councilor Wilson, I spoke yesterday at length about this, and so you're gonna ask for 6 weeks?
Yes, sir.
So admin and policy is where we'll see it? the
Yes,
next
sir, we will
time
see it the
we'll
next time.
See the floor plan?
Yes, sir.
But it's still in the same place and the road's gonna be the same way.
Yes, sir.
Is that it, Zach?
No.
Okay. It's like last night.
Well, this one, so you are not gonna be hearing this tonight. Here's some gardens. There was some Tuscaloosa News mishap with the advertisement, and so we'll just be requesting to table this to, I believe, 2 weeks, or till the 12th.
We're gonna
So
withdraw
you'll
this
table
one and then try again in July so that we can meet advertising.
So is it being tabled or withdrawn?
It needs to be withdrawn. This one needs to be withdrawn, yes.
So we'll withdraw it. And
But it's coming back.
Yes.
Okay.
So let's get that one. And we have 2 public hearings for you guys tonight. One is a rezoning for the University of Alabama. This is at 331 University Boulevard. They're going from BN to institutional, and this is Council District 4. It's the old PNC Bank on University.
Yeah, that's right there.
That triangle building. They've purchased it, and they have no plans currently. They're just rezoning to institutional. It does conform to framework, and this is identified as campus services, as you can see on the future land use character map. And it was unanimously recommended for approval in April at the Planning and Zoning Commission. Any questions on this one? And then the next one we have is a rezoning for Habitat for Humanity. So this is 1.32 acres close to Colton Park, from RMF 1 to R3, and this is Council District 2. So you can see here on the zoning map on the bottom right of your screen, RMF 1 is that sliver that's highlighted, and then just to the north of that, the R3 area, they've purchased all of that property, and they're going through a planned unit development to provide some houses there. And so, but they have to rezone this parcel in order to go through this process. So here's the subject property. And so tonight, you guys are just gonna be voting on the rezoning. and it does conform to framework. This is traditional neighborhood, on the future land use character map. And it was unanimously recommended for approval by planning commission. And then you're gonna be setting a public hearing date for their planned unit development. And that will be July 12th. So you can see here, this is all the property that they're gonna be bringing forward.
I did a video.
It's gonna be 26 single-family homes, about 1,300 square feet each. And then there's that layout. But again, y'all are just voting on the rezoning and then setting a public hearing for the planning and development. And that's all I got for you. Any questions about that one?
Any questions for Zach this time? Thank you, and I want to thank Zach. I was at, and I want to thank Chief Blankley for joining me last night at the Planning and Zoning Board of Adjustments. But your team does a really great job, and it lasted 3 hours and 45 minutes last night, and
How long?
3 hours and 45 minutes. I think it was about 8:45, and so we started at 5.
It was 8:15, right on the dot.
8:15? Okay, only 3 hours and 15
Yeah,
minutes.
only
But I had, was there to support a neighborhood opposing a short-term rental. And they said it was the most opposition ever for short-term rentals. And I was very pleased that they turned it down, and just the fact of Chief Blankley being there too, made the difference. And I thank you for that. But there was a lot, it was short-term rental night,
And so let me ask you something on the short-term rentals. When, cause I've had people to call me about short-term rentals, opposition. If they're given the license to have their short-term rental, can the residents come back to ask for that to be overturned, or does there have to be a length of time, or what has to happen?
I can explain that to you, but Zach, if you'll just put it in a nutshell about that, because there's probation periods, there's renewals, such.
Yes, if it's approved, an aggrieved party, I believe, can appeal to circuit court within 15 days.
Okay,
But other than that, if it's approved, they can get their business license. But for short-term rentals specifically, 311 is our biggest asset if there's any complaints, because
yeah,
they really take that into account when they're renewing their short-term rental licenses. So,
thank you.
It was pretty eye-opening, and maybe we want to come back and I know Ashley, probably thinking, no, don't say this, but maybe we want to come back and look at short-term rentals again, because this situation, it had strictly become a total party house. And so as one of the board members said last night, and they were doing it without a license, but somebody said, well, if you can't control your own family, how can you control the renters? Which was a really good point that Michelle Coley made. So, because it's worked pretty well, I think, overall, for the most part, with all the tweaking that's been done. But at the same time, there's always that case where it can wreak havoc.
And
on the neighborhood.
I'll point out, council does have the remedy of revoking a business license as
Okay.
well under those issues. So if you have somebody that's kind of within their period that is doing something that would check the boxes on a business license revocation, you could go.
Right.
go
Thank you,
there.
Scott. Thank you.
And I don't know who this will go through, but I hadn't chance to speak with the mayor about it, but ZBA, and I'm sure they don't receive any compensation at all. And I think that's something that the council, we should look at. 3 hours and 15 minutes, and ZBA meetings are always long, and planning and zoning, I think we ought to maybe look at giving some compensation. at least $100 a meeting or something.
Maybe if it's an extended meeting. Or
Yeah,
it takes
because
a little bit of time.
I know our personnel board gets $300, and sometimes they don't have very much to deal
15
with.
minutes.
Something
And
for
yeah.
their expenses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Buy them a meal or
Yeah.
pay for their
Yeah.
gas.
Yeah, I agree.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean,
but at least something, because that's a long commitment for those folks last night that work all day, and then, they didn't leave here till at least 3.5 hours, and say they were here. As good public servants, really. So anyway, something to think about. Jimbo,
We have the business license application for Motel 6 tonight, and we will hear a short presentation from the city. And then Cam Parsons is here as well today, and he will have something to present to you about what they have planned once you about.
okay. Cam, you want to say anything right now, Cam?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
So, everybody, I'll have a heads up. So, what I'm gonna ask for tonight is for this to be tabled. And I wanted to just briefly tell everybody sort of the quick history on this. This was a Motel 6 franchise. The current owner bought it 2 years ago, and it was in real bad shape. There was a plan to upgrade it, and since that time, they spent $650,000 on upgrades in the hotel. So it's not like sort of how it's being portrayed as a flop house, in spite of all the calls and disruptions that the police departments had to deal with. I met in this room with staff 3 or 4 weeks ago, a good number of staff, and let them know what was going on. There's a set of architectural plans that have been approved by the city to deal with the remaining code issues. Almost all the code issues except for a design problem with the old balconies that's caused some water damage and potential structure damage. Most of the code issues have been addressed. There's a contract from Bill Taylor Construction. He went to pull a permit yesterday, and for some reason he was unable to get it. An updated set of plans, Barry, was filed, I think, Friday with the new International Building Code date on it. So Bill Taylor's trying to pull a permit to do what we know needs to be done on code right now, and he's got a contract for, I think, about $150,000. The initial phase of the construction on this code work will be removal of finishes along the wall where these balconies join to see what type of rotting has occurred in there. And then once they see that, they'll be able to come up with an additional set of plans to make those corrections. They're going to start with shoring the balconies to make them safe. All the rooms that have been under those balconies have been closed for a couple months. They've only been renting, I think, somewhere around 30 rooms for a couple months. But, so the shoring will be done, the demolition work will be done, and I talked to the contractor, and he says that work will take about 3 weeks. After that's done, the architect comes in, we do another assessment, we get another contract to do the finish work on the balcony problems. And what the owners has decided to do, they've been partially open with this limited number of rooms, is to voluntarily shut it down during this remodeling period. But sort of like was earlier when Barry was presenting this other house, we would sort of like a second chance, at a minimum of 90 days to see what kind of progress has been made on the work. But I think the whole thing will probably take longer than 90 days. 90 would be a minimum, 120 day is what we'd like to ask for. I don't think all the construction work can be done by that time, but I think we can at least show the effort that's been made. Some other stuff that they're planning on doing is trying to upgrade the exterior lighting to try to cut down on exterior activities that might be happening. They're considering hiring outside security to be on the property at different times. We've contacted the city and talked to them possibly about, or I did personally, about hiring off-duty TPD officers. But like I say, a lot of the stuff that's in the actual petition that's before you tonight has already been addressed. think one of the biggest things in dealing with the number of police calls is that when they acquired this from Motel 6, and they were a Motel 6 franchisee, they lost the franchise this February because they were unable to complete all the upgrades that Motel 6 required of them in Motel 6's time frame.
That was a question I was gonna ask you, because I know their signs are already down.
The sign came down, and so now they're unflagged, but they're committed to get reflagged. They're gonna try to hopefully get back with Motel 6, but that might not happen. If not, they'll get another franchise. But they've gotta finish this work, they gotta put this license thing behind them. And anyway, the main thing I wanted to press upon you is that this while it's been a historical problem from a police perspective, that problem they inherited from a national corporation, Motel 6. They've been trying to upgrade. When they first bought it, the room rates were $30. The room rates are now on the average $60 to $65, and they're moving towards $80. We think that as the room rates go up, then, the whatever cheap room thing moves them to somewhere else. Maybe the problem moves from someplace else in Tuscaloosa, or maybe it moves to Bessemer, who knows. And anyway, we would ask your indulgence to allow us to spend probably another $500,000 to finish the upgrades and the investment that you're not going to find a lot of other people that are willing to make this investment because they've already made so much already. So I think if they lose their license, then you have to ask yourself, who's going to acquire this property? What's it going to be used for? And do they have the capital resources like the current owner does? But the current owner does apologize. They're going to make some significant changes in their on-staff management, improve their training to try to identify potential troublemakers. So, that'll be my pitch tonight. And I know the chief is against it. I spoke with him earlier, but we're asking for a second chance.
Cam, the activity would be closed while if this tabling is approved.
No
this would be
room
closed.
renting. They'll have staff on to be cleaning and make sure the property's secure, but there'll be no rooms let after July 5th. Voluntarily.
Chief Blankley?
Yes, sir, Council. This goes way beyond, our recommendation is to go ahead and pull their business license. This goes beyond maintenance issues. He's on the property for multiple years. He's had time to do it. The only reason he's doing it now is we're trying to close him down. But I want to put a perspective of why we think this should be closed. I understand they may dump money into it. His argument is, hey, I don't know who's going to acquire it. The property can't get much worse than it is right now. Since 2019, we have had 695 calls for service at that location. That location is terrible. It's a hindrance to society. We are spending day after day at that location. And you might go, what's an average one? So I've got some numbers for you real quick across the street. If you go across the street to Country and Suites, in the same amount of time, they've had 58 calls. And then you may say Country and Suites may be a little higher price. Let's go to the Econo Lodge. At that location, during the same amount of time, they've had 140 calls. No amount of money they can sink into this with that management and that owner is going to change what's happened at that location. You're looking at 2, 3, 4, 5 times the amount of crime at that location. We're respectfully asking for y'all to hear the business license revocation and close it down for public safety.
Thanks, Chief.
That is by crossing the McDonald's, right?
Yes.
Okay.
What you think, Council?
I don't have any intentions of tabling anything. I agree with Chief. And my thing is, if we're gonna dump money, $500,000 today, or starting today, what happened 2 years ago? When it went to crap, and my district is creating a whole lot of havoc in my district and in our neighborhoods. And I don't think Skyland Park, that's on the back of that hotel, deserves that. The people coming up McFarland also. Yeah, I don't have any intention, so I would probably save the money you know, save your money. Don't go spending no more money, cause I don't have any intentions to table it or anything. And if we had a hearing tonight, my request would be to pull those licenses.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, well, continue this evening then at 6. Mayor is off, so we have department comments or announcements. Brandy?
So this is not really, you guys don't have anything to do. This is just a reminder for everyone who is watching. We are still accepting applications for Historic Preservation Commission. Since we made the decision to extend the deadline, we haven't received any applications. So, just a reminder,
I'll get that.
we're waiting on applications.
Okay. All right, I'll get that. I know I'll get one in. Thank you for reminding me. Of course, City Hall will be closed Monday, July 4th. Can you believe it? Observance of Independence Day, no garbage, trash, recycling services. Then regular service resume on Tuesday and Monday behind schedule. No council or committee meetings next Tuesday, July 5th. Of course, anybody have any trouble with their trash, garbage, recycling, whatever, then please contact 311. While I'm talking about that, today, the City Hall lights in front will be turned to blue and yellow in the colors of Ukraine in honor of Alex Drucke. Thank you for that, Richard. Alex is actually he was, his family was all born and raised in Alberta, as a matter of fact, in Windsor Drive. And the Druckes, of course, are asking everyone to please keep their sons in your thoughts and your prayers, as he apparently is a prisoner of war in Russia. I've known him since he was a little boy, and he is the kind that didn't surprise me a bit that he ran to Ukraine to help teach them how to use the firepower and all that came from this country. And him and the other young man from Andy from Hartselle, Alabama, so 2 Alabamians, and I know you've all followed it, but anyway, the lights will be up as of now, correct? And run for a week?
Yes, sir.
Is that right? So please keep the Druckes in your thoughts and prayers. It's his mother, Bunny, has just been amazing. She's been so strong and such courage in this time that I can't imagine what they're actually going through.
She lives over.
She lives in your district?
I know exactly what she lives.
Yeah.
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 I didn't put that together,
Yeah.
just to be honest.
Yeah, fine people.
Yeah.
Mr. Holmes.
Sir. Good afternoon, council. Doing every other week makes for a long agenda today on committees and on council, but if you would join me towards the top of page 3 on your short agenda.
Yep.
On page 32, we'll be setting the cost for demolition of the structure at 2111 5th Street East and authorizing the filing of a lien. And then we will skip down over some of the items that have already been covered to page 36 and 47. You will be authorizing acquisition by condemnation proceedings for property acquisition, permanent easements and access, and temporary construction easements for the Western Riverwalk Improvements Project. This is allowing us to go to condemnation on the property we need to complete the Western Riverwalk. The next one down on page 48, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with TCC Acquisition Partners for the Western Riverwalk. These are connected items. We plan to go to condemnation and file later this week. However, we do still have ongoing discussions with the property owners. We are still very hopeful that we can do this voluntarily. Since council does not meet next week, we wanted to go ahead and have the power to execute whatever voluntary property acquisition we get.
Scott, let me ask you a question. Looking at that, is there no other way to, in conversation with the property owner, to get this done without condemning their land, condemning their property?
Not if they're not willing to. We've had conversation after conversation. Unless they are willing to give it voluntarily, there's nothing else to do. If we don't go to condemnation and we continue to negotiate with them, you may lose the ability to get that property in time to get that grant.
Because yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'll say, I mean, I speak with the property owner weekly, we, you know, actually, that's their attorney, so I'm, like Mr. Rome said, I'm confident we'll probably come to an agreement outside of condemnation. As Mr. Holmes alluded to, you have, I guess approximately 90 days or less to fill up the requirements for the bill.
I've been reading that bill grant, and I've
This
been
is the last
talking.
piece that
Yeah.
you're missing, and if the property is not secured, you will lose the entire grant.
I've been reading that bill grant. I've been talking about this project since I came on council. And I have spoke with engineers. I've also spoke to the property owner. My concern with this is I truly believe that there should be a way that we should be able to communicate effectively without condemnation. Because to me, this has been kicked down the road, and now we're at a point that we want to condemn the property, and I don't think that's right.
I would say with respect, we've been negotiating with the property owner for well over 14 months. In good faith since January, in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Then when
I would say it's on the property owner at that point to come to an agreement that we can agree to, or else there will be no bill grant.
You know, and then when I talked to the property owner concerning this,
Property owner or representative of the property?
I've talked to both property owner and representative. So then when we talk months prior to this, and there's discussions about whether to condemn the land or whether not to condemn the land, I'm really concerned that there's a deeper reason why we want to condemn the land than work with the property owners to do what we need to do so that the Western Riverwalk, JWP, MLK can be done, and the community in my district can feel that that which has been already worked out, supposedly, can happen. Yes.
Mr. Wilson, I will point out, starting in, I believe, December, we had a meeting with the property owner and the representative, and I let them know that we had to get this done.
Okay.
We have negotiated. I've told them we're negotiating on a 2 parallel tracks. We're going to get our appraisals and do everything we need to do to go through the condemnation process, as well as negotiate with them in hopes that the condemnation process is not necessary.
Right.
We have continued to do that. We've told them at every step of the way when we're doing what we are doing. We cannot.
And their response was?
Their response is to have the same conversation month after month after month. We cannot be bullied into some sort of agreement that is not in the city's best interest at the risk of losing this grant and losing your Western Riverwalk.
Mr. Holmes also has a legal and fiduciary responsibility to make sure that anything we work out with the property owner does not bind this council or any future council for decision making on the property.
So,
And I feel like we have communicated some things to the owner directly.
Yeah.
As of yesterday, that I think I'm optimistic may assuage some of their concerns.
Yeah.
So we'll see what their attorney says.
so I'm not clear, what has to happen by when?
Our deadline is
I
September
heard
30th.
90 days, I heard lose the bill grant. What has to
The last
happen?
remaining piece to the bill grant is we have to have access, or either Scott can give you or Tom can give you the text.
And I can let Mr. Bob, he's our timeline
But
expert on condemnation.
essentially, if we do not file for condemnation now, you lose the timeline process of that being an option, and we will not meet the requirements of the bill grant. Now, if the property owner would like to negotiate, we can do that at any time through the process over the next 90 days, and that would be our preferred route.
So, hang on one second, please. So, what has to happen, Tom? We have to have control of the property by when? By what?
September 30th.
To September 3rd.
Or
We lose the bill grant.
15 million bucks?
Yes, sir.
How long does condemnation proceedings take?
60 days.
Huh?
45 to 60 days.
The what?
About 45 to 60 days, that's why I need to file now.
And a good lawyer can't drag that out? I'm asking because it seems like that they're in the catbird seat if we're gonna lose 15 million bucks if it's not done in 90 days.
In what I would reverse that, and I've told the property owner, is that I mean, their property is their property today, but they only stand to benefit from over $21 million of improvements in that entire corridor. So why you would not want to work with us in figuring out the best possible solution, it only devalues the property, so.
And one of the
They
possibilities.
won't have a river walk, you won't have pedestrian bridges, you won't have the moorings relocated with the barges, so it doesn't necessarily, it's in their best interest to work with us as we want to work.
So didn't we go through a similar dynamic with, is it called the Powell property? It's essentially, how long did that process take? I mean, and we got it done in 60 days, and then y'all came back to us and said, we want to go ahead and up the offer, right?
We have to get the property acquisition phase of the condemnation done. What took longer on the Powell portion of the property and the appeal portion was arguing over compensation. And so that's one of the things we've discussed, and I've discussed with the attorneys for this property owner, is that we may get to the point where they will agree to the taking. They will agree that we have the right to take this property as a government.
Then it just
for this
becomes a
purpose.
matter of price?
And we can continue to argue over compensation later, but we will have access and right of entry to this property enough to satisfy our build grant.
I might be wrong, but my intuition tells me we'll resolve it with the property owner outside of the condemnation process.
That's what I believe.
I believe that too.
I do
Okay.
too.
But at the same time, we would not be, and the property owner's known this since January, that we would have to take parallel tracks at a certain point being now if we're unable to come to an agreement.
Do you think they're just waiting on you to do this before they get more serious?
Is this all about, as, I hate to ask this question, it's always about the money? What's the,
There have been
Well,
right,
numerous,
maybe it's all
there's
about the
access
money, but
roads.
there have been
what's
numerous,
the other
there have
holdup?
been numerous demands and other projects tied to any agreement that we cannot legally agree to.
And probably tied to improvements on all of this,
Yes.
That's
Martin
fair.
Luther King and everything else.
Well, we don't wanna lose all those improvements.
No.
I don't have any more questions.
And we'll keep you updated. I mean, like I said, it's now 2 times a week dealing with the property owner in a very positive way. We've had very productive discussions. As of yesterday, submitted over some stuff to Mr. Sledge, hopefully that they can bat around and maybe get an agreement that Scott and Tom can work with. But we have to take the parallel tracks at this point. So, and they're aware of that today, by the way. We spoke yesterday afternoon, so they're aware that both items are on there. But you also have one on there to negotiate, I believe. with the owner. So,
Will they or
yeah,
their
prefer-
representatives be here tonight?
Not that I've been there.
But they are aware of both items being on there, so I don't want to have conflict.
This isn't anything unusual. I mean, we've gone
It's
through lots
not,
of
it
this
happens
over the
sometimes
years.
routinely, so, but I would prefer to take a different path, but as Mr. Holmes put it, we're bumping up against the clock, where once that 60 days lapses, we lose 30 days, then there will be a problem against the clock.
So with that even being said, what about the right of way with the train trestle? So how could you complete this? And we keep saying that we have 90%.
That's unconnected to this project.
Okay, but it would actually end up leading into that project, correct?
The
access road.
The railroad trestle
Yeah.
in the northern spur, I don't think the northern spur.
Or the southern.
None of those are involved with this property acquisition for the Riverwalk.
Yes, there's a connector point, but it's outside of this, and this would not be this request isn't associated with the Tuscaloosa County Road Improvement Commission's projects, and that's what makes this different. We can't tie them together as Mr. Holmes put it earlier. 2 separate processes, as well as the development process, which we have.
Well, I've been talking to also Senator Singleton concerning that Bill Grant, who I've known over 20 years. So I'm familiar with all of the 5 projects that go into that Bill Grant, and talking about the things that were agreed upon. So I just want to make sure that what we do is indicative of what we said we were going to do from the beginning.
What I sent over on what I sent over on Monday should reflect that. So from both the communication and working in good faith with each other. So from the council's perspective, I do want you to know that it is I'm optimistic we'll work it outside of condemnation, but we are up against the clock and federal funds are on the line.
So if
And a lot of staff time.
If we have condemnation, y'all are still gonna try to work something.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
We could
absolutely.
file condemnation and 3 days later reach an agreement, and then we file a motion to dismiss our condemnation.
Right.
It's-
I would imagine, Counselor Fail, we end up hopefully working something out. There's just a couple of items consideration. Like I said, they're aware of both items are on there, and I've talked to Mr. McKinley about this way Friday and sent an update on Monday. I feel like we're in a very good place. We're gonna be able to work it out. So, it's a timing issue. Everybody's got expectations we have to meet, and we wanna make sure we meet everybody's expectations. I think as Council Wilson alluded to.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yep, that's not an easy job at all with that, because I had one in 25th Avenue East sidewalk project, and 3 people refused to sign. And it got to this point, and then they saw that it actually was going to happen, they were gonna be condemned, and they signed off, so. But this is different, that this is a grant, and ours was general fund money, so we, in that situation, but it's a tough job, for sure. Especially something project of this magnitude. Okay, Mr. Holmes?
Yes, sir. On page 49, you'll be authorizing the purchase of equipment, supplies, and services from Touchless Covers of Alabama. That is a total of $22,773.04. On page 50, you'll be authorizing the purchase of equipment, supplies, and services from Train. That is a total of $18,264. On page 51, you'll be authorizing 10-hour shifts for certain positions in the Tuscaloosa Police Department. You'll hear more about that today on public safety. On page 52, you'll be authorizing the city's consolidated annual performance and evaluation report for program year 2021 and authorizing the submission of CAPER to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. You'll hear about that further on CD committee today. On page 53, you'll be authorizing the Community and Neighborhood Services to advertise a summary of the City of Tuscaloosa's action plan for the 2022 Community Development Block Grant and the Home Investment Partnership Programs and other HUD grant programs. You'll again hear about that on CD committee this afternoon. On page 54, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute a letter with the Tuscaloosa Housing Authority in regard to compliance with 24 CFR Part 58.6 for the 2022 capital and fund budget and rolling 5-year plan. Again, you will hear about that in the CD committee this afternoon. On page 55, you'll be authorizing the amendment to the city's agreement and authorizing the mayor to execute the amended agreement with Habitat for Humanity of Tuscaloosa Incorporated 2020 home funds for the development of affordable housing. Again, you'll hear about that in CD committee. On page 56, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute a right-of-way permit to Night Sign Industries. You will hear about that in projects today. On page 57 through 60, you'll be amending a resolution setting a date for a public hearing on a proposed vacation of a portion of a public street, that'd be 4th Street. On page 61, you'll be authorizing a minor public works contract with the American Defense Company for Shelby Park security upgrades. That is a total not to exceed $21,900, and you'll hear about that project today. On page 62, you'll be authorizing a contract with Cabell Inc. Lawn and Landscaping Services not to exceed $4,250. You'll be hearing about that project today. On page 56, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute task order directive number 5 with Garver for the Hilliard N. Fletcher Water Resource Recovery Facility Headworks Improvement Project. That is a not to exceed $251,450, and you will hear about that project today. On page 64, you'll be authorizing a contract in engineering and related services with TTL for the Jack Warner parking lot project. That is a total not to exceed $12,000, and you'll hear about that project today. On page 56, you'll be authorizing a contract amendment with Tyler Technologies, total of $33,620 for year 1 and $4,000 per year thereafter. You'll hear about that in project today. On page 66, you'll be authorizing a minor public works contract with Clark Memorial. That is a not to exceed $2,100, and you heard about that in projects on the 14th. On page 56, you'll be authorizing primary service agreement and task order directive number 1 for architectural design and construction administration services with William Blackstock Architects for Fire Station number 11. That is doubled up on projects today as well. On page 56, you'll be authorizing Amendment 8 to fiscal year 2022 Water and Sewer Reserve for Future Improvements Fund
This is on
budget.
68.
Page 68, yes, sir. And you'll hear about that in Finance Committee today. On page 69, you'll be authorizing amendment number 9 to the fiscal year 2022 General Fund Reserve for Future Improvements Fund budget. You'll hear about that in Finance Committee today. On page 70, you'll be authorizing amendment number 5 to the Water and Sewer Services Fees Fund. You'll be hearing about that on Finance today, and I believe there is a substitute tonight you'll see on it. On page 71, you'll be amending section 19-273 of the Code of Tuscaloosa. You'll hear about that in Public Safety today. On page 72 through 73, you'll be amending sections 19-61C and 1945 of the Code of Tuscaloosa. You'll hear about that in Public Safety today. On page 74, you'll be reappointing members to the Historic Preservation Commission. This includes members Sally Davis, Kathy Pagani, Mary Harmon Young, and Joseph Cox. On page 75, you'll be appointing Brian Gary as the city's representative to the Board of Trustees of the Firemen and Policemen's Pension and Relief Fund. On page 76 and 77, you'll be authorizing amendment number 3 to fiscal year 2022 Water and Sewer Fund budget. You'll hear about that in Finance Committee. On pages 78 through 118, you'll be authorizing the issuance and making provision for the payment of $39,590,000 general obligation warrant series 2022A. On page 119 through 158, you'll be authorizing the issuance and making provision for the payment of $35,255,000 general obligation warrant series 2022B. And I believe that is all I have for this afternoon. Is there any questions on anything else?
I do have a question. If, Councilor Lanier, I know just stepped out, but if there's no appetite for tabling the Motel 6 again, which I don't really, I just feel like it's not, it won't be, will we have the hearing?
Yes, sir. We're prepared to offer the evidence in here.
Okay.
We're gonna present our side before, so you'll hear the full scope of what's going on before you hear from their.
I just wonder procedurally, just how that would work.
Quick question to save me from doing a lot of fine print reading. Barry, these amounts shown in connection with Series A and Series B, are those the face amount or is that the principal amount?
Principal amount.
That's the principal amount.
Yep. Those are the par amounts of each series of warrants.
Did we bring more money than that in? Did we sell them as premiums?
I believe.
Okay, so we're bringing more than that amount of money into the house.
Right? I believe the A's were net premium. Some maturities had discounts, some had premiums, and the B's had premium.
Okay.
So yes.
So, Ms. Standridge, sometime during finance, if you'd let us know just the actual amount brought in.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Holmes? All right, as you know, very full day. Projects, finance, public safety, special call, community development committee. There's quite a few items there. Hopefully, we'll start the council meeting at 6, but we have to. And then this Thursday, public hearing, state CDBG. That is something that you may want to think about attending. Very few people do, but I have been there a few times. At 1 o'clock, City Hall, of course, closed on Monday. Richard, can you tell us about the 4th of July celebration and the times and what will be going on?
I'm gonna have to get back on this. I don't know the exact time when it does start. I know that there is a kids zone.
Are they gonna do the kids zone this year?
Yes, sir, they are gonna do the kids zone, and then there's gonna be, the Tuscaloosa orchestra's gonna play, and then I believe.
It's usually 7, I think, then 9 o'clock fireworks.
I think so, yes, sir.
I didn't know, because COVID, they didn't do the kids zone a couple of years, so I
Yes, sir,
didn't know.
that's right, so it's back this year.
All righty.
Gates are gonna be open at 6 o'clock now.
6 o'clock, gates open?
6 o'clock, gates will open at
Okay. All right, very good. Very good. Thank you, Virgil. Anybody else have anything to add today? No executive sessions? Okay, all right.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I'm so glad
Oh,
today.
I was gonna ask you to recognize your guests.
Yeah, I have some guests with me today. I truly believe that our children will be what they see. And so I have two young men with me today who are shadowing me, Caleb and Eric. They're both shadowing me today, and we're going to different departments, talking to them about what they do, and allowing these young men to see that there's another life beyond school, and that city government and what city has to offer can be an excellent way for them to get to where they need to be.
Well, welcome, young men. Where do you go to school, by the way? And you go Francis Mary?
They're ninth graders.
Yeah, very good. Very good. I've been to a lot of Francis Marion basketball games over the years, and they've won a lot of state championships down there, haven't they? Yes, sir. All right. Huh? Oh, yeah, RC Hatch. Now, you're right about that now. Yeah, RC Hatch and Francis Marion both. I've seen RC Hatch play a lot of times too. I always wonder what was going on in the water down there, because they sure know how to win
Right.
championships. All right, is there a motion that we adjourn?
So moved.
Motion second, adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.